I hate driving. I hate people teaching to drive for dollars as a marketing method because it's not a marketing method and you're not doing shit. If you're just driving and like building a list and then you don't do anything with it, which the majority of people do, you're not going to get anywhere. And at that point, you're burning money, and someone told you like, "Hey, just go use all your gas money."
Yeah. I think I don't think that people are teaching it as a marketing strategy. I think people are teaching it as a way of getting into real estate with very low cost, but not as marketing, as a way of building a list to market to. I haven't seen someone necessarily say, "Hey, go drive for dollars," but don't do nothing for it. They're
But
either
that's
telling
what
them,
happens, right? Like people drive for dollars.
can't control that. You can't control that. You can tell them to go drive for dollars to build up a list of distressed properties, but at that point, you have to, once you export that list, you have to call the people. You have to either direct mail them by sending the postcards through Driving for Dollars app or whatever it may be, and going from there. Yes, it's not marketing, but it's a way to accumulate a list that no one else has.
I still do not care about people who say they don't have money. Like when they say like, "Oh, I have no money to start." To where like I know the best thing that you should be doing is you should be building your own list, getting Mojo Dialer, getting Mojo on the go, and cold calling while you're driving for dollars and still building that list. Like that is ideally the best situation. Like if you're just fucking driving around and maybe you're like listening to podcasts and stuff. Like the best thing to do, the only thing that makes you any money is talking to people.
Agreed. So, and I go back and forth with that on calling them on the spot, stuff like that. I do think there's a sense of efficiency. With Driving for Dollars, you do have to make sure that you get enough properties on there to call. You know what I mean? And so if you're sitting there spending all that time skip tracing at the house, cold calling them right there at the house, you're missing out on a chance of being able to go through so many neighborhoods and uploading so many properties onto your app
at the same time. Like you use PropStream, bro.
You skip trace it, do all that one thing at a time. I think it can be confusing and it leaves a lot of room for error when you ask people to do too much at once.
Bro, this shit ain't rocket science.
It's not, but to some it is. I can pull up to a house.
If it's rocket science to you, you ain't gonna make it.
I can pull up to a house, skip trace it, call it right there on the spot using PropStream app, right? But not everyone's. That's a shit ton of information for someone just getting started into it. You say skip tracing to some of these folks, and they're like, you know what I mean? So just the thought of just go look for property right now. When you're done looking for the property, uploading them all onto your app, hit me up. I'll tell you what the next step is. Now you're gonna export it. You're gonna put it into the system.
Massive action all the way. Like massive action needs to happen. Yeah. If you're not taking massive action and talking to people and you're like, oh, well, I don't know, this is too much. Well, bro, you're going to get fucking burnt alive in business.
Yeah.
I mean, because I don't care. Oh, well, how big do you want to make it? It doesn't matter, bro. You're still competing. Like, you're still competing for deals. And, like, yeah, like, we collaborate and stuff. But if you're only doing this part-time, like, oh, I don't know, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to eat you fucking alive. And I'm going to feed my kids. And I'm gonna go buy another house.
But I feel like it's easy to say that, like they say hindsight's 20/20 and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's easy to look back at it, you know what I mean, or just look how we went at it. Not everyone's gonna be that way. I think that's the beauty.
It's a hyper competitive market.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? So it is. Not taking action immediately. So, and I've been listening to like all these tech podcasts, like I said. When we don't take action immediately, business is killing other businesses. All it is keeping the best margins. I don't care what you're doing, like you guys can make money together, but there's still competition. And you need to get to that deal as fast as possible. You need to get the money as fast as humanly possible or someone else is going to get it. End of story.
Yeah.
End of story. Because guess what? Like if I want to drive for dollars and then they just like, oh, well, I'm going to build this list first. Well, I'm fucking calling all of them. Who wins? Who gets to the money first?
Yeah, of course you got to call them. You got to make sure you actually market to the people on your Driving for Dollars list that you built up. And yes, ideally they should be calling them immediately. At the end of the day, if I went out and did Driving for Dollars, built a list, and didn't call that bitch for 2 weeks, I guarantee you I can still get a deal out for that list.
You'll be okay. But
if I'm just getting started, like right, I'm not. If I got overhead. You know what I mean? Obviously, ideally, I'd like to make as much as possible, as soon as possible, to make sure that my overhead and all that shit gets taken care of. But if you're new into it, bro, you go close a deal. Maybe you are the last one to it, but the person just falls in love with you. You make $5,000 on that deal, bro. It done changed your life.
I would much rather you make $50,000 and change your life.
How much was your first deal?
My first deal, what was it? Like $5,000.
How'd you feel about it when you closed it?
I think it was cool, but it was already spent.
For sure. But how excited were you about that $5,000?
Oh, it was cool, bro. I mean, so my first deal on my own was like $5,000, and then like I did deals with, I think my first deal with Alan.
But we don't count that because that's different, like profit share in a way.
Right, it's like a different.
You know what I mean? But your first deal individually with your own company, $5,000. It was already spent, but it felt good because you were probably able to pay off a bunch of shit at once.
Yeah, and like so, like when we talked about like, bro, you need to negotiate harder and sell harder when you're dispoing and acquiring deals, because like those thousands of dollars really add up over time, right?
100%.
So like I'm just thinking like, okay, grand scheme, we need to make as much money as possible now. We do have competition. Mm-hmm. I have 10 people on the phones for me right now. Like I just got a text like, hey, these people are on the phone. These are the markets they're calling. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing that with 10 people, bro, I've probably cold called the Driving for Dollars list anyways. Mm-hmm. Right? So like we need to get to it now.
Probably.
It's that competitive though, and like to not act in a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
You're doing yourself a disservice.
I do believe that, there's something to be said for building a list, Driving for Dollars. You said you probably reached them already. A lot of these homes probably don't even pop up on some of the lists that we're calling for, unless you just pull the whole county or the whole city, and you're calling the whole city.
I have.
You know what I mean? But
I have the whole county.
Yeah, okay. You could have called the wrong day. You know what I mean? Like it's something to be said.
I'm not saying it's a bad marketing method, but if you're going to use
it's not marketing.
It's not marketing.
It's something to be said about cold callers calling a list, waiting, hoping, not hoping, but, going to get a lead compared to somebody calling a known distressed list. That conversation, my conversation, it shouldn't be different, but it is.
No, it's different.
When I'm calling a Driving for Dollars list compared to when I'm calling a high equity list, like I'm so much more intentional on that Driving for Dollars list and listening for BS. Because they can tell me, oh, not interested on the equity list. We kind of knew that was going to happen. You know what I mean? Because we're kind of spreading a wide net, casting a wide net. On the Driving for Dollars list, they tell me they're not interested. I'm going to probably dig a little bit more because I know your shit's fucked up. So there should be some type of interest.
I mean, it should give you some type of interest. It's like calling pre-foreclosure. Like, right? I'm not saying it's not a good niche list. Like, my head goes to a completely different place of efficiency and like fucking.
Because you've grown to that level. You did.
Yeah, and I mean,
there's no fucking debate about that. You did. You grew to that level.
I'm just trying to think of like when it switched.
You'll know when you know. You know when people's like, oh, how do you know when you need to hire your cold caller? How do you know when you need to get an acquisitions manager? Well, we can't tell you that.
I mean, for the cold caller, the answer is now.
We didn't say that a few years ago. You get what I'm saying? Like shit's different. You grow and you learn.
Getting, bro. Like I just didn't make any money and I kept putting it back into marketing. Like I was like, well, I need to multiply my efforts. That's the way I think, right? I just want to duplicate more eyeballs and getting out more feelers to get more deals
through experience.
No, well, and I guess like so with Alan, like, but as soon as I was with Alan's like, no, bro, we're fucking paying money, we're dropping money, and we're actually marketing. So that was a really, really good segue for me. For like now I'm on my own. I'm donating plasma. All of that money is going back into marketing the text message. Like all of it. Like at the very beginning, like, okay, get it back into it. All right, we're going to pulling lists. Like as soon as I got it, I had a chick texting and I was cold calling. Because that was like the most cost efficient thing I could do. But like, it was like, all right, how can I multiply my efforts immediately? Because that is the only thing that's really going to get you some momentum.
Yeah. That thought process is what I'm saying is more of a mature thought process of being able to duplicate that and actually knowing how to go about that. Because I know one of the things before, even for me, was just like, okay, I need to hire someone, but what exactly do I need them to do? You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes you only know that stuff by going through it and understanding where you're failing.